start. So this is the last in a mini-series on a talk from Genesis, where God has created the world and everything within it. He stops, he rests, he looks around, and he declares that it is very good. What's amazing is we don't actually have to look far to see that it is indeed very good. The world around us is intricately complex and awe-inspiring, and what a fabulous thing to get to speak to you about this morning. The variety on life on Earth is utterly mind-blowing. There are estimated 8.7 million species of plants and animals alive on Earth. And the really exciting thing is the vast majority of those are still to be discovered. And if that's not astonishing enough, the individual number of animals estimated on the planet is 20 quintillion, which is 20 with 18 zeros on the end. Each one of those individual animals has been so perfectly designed for its environment, so perfectly designed for the natural world with which it lives, that they live in almost perfect harmony. Now, as a parent of 3 small children, I don't know if you've ever been to a child's birthday party, trying to get 5 of God's glorious creation in perfect harmony is difficult enough. Try doing that with 20 quintillion. It's just astonishing. And the wonder that we feel when we look upon the natural world, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's no wonder that God thought it was good. Now, again, another apology. I'm a primary school teacher, so I'm used to talking to children. So if this feels a little bit like that, that'll be why. But just kind of come with me a little bit while we look at some of these incredible things. So let's just take a couple of good examples. I don't think I've put it up there now, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Take the blue whale, the largest animal to have ever existed. It's 30 meters long, which means we wouldn't actually get it in this church, even if its nose was down there and the tail was down there. And talking of tail, that's 8 meters wide, which is from the center probably to the side of each pew, just the tail. The scale is utterly phenomenal. When they are born, they are 3 tons, and their hearing is so acute that they can hear individuals calling from over 1,000 miles away. That's like us hearing someone talking in the south of Spain. And if that's not awesome enough, let's talk about the platypus. Such a weird creature, the body of an otter. And again, I don't think I've put the platypus up. I got so excited by these animals that I kept changing what I was talking about. The body of an otter, the beak and the feet of a duck, the tail of a beaver, and the sting of poison of a scorpion. It's one of the only poisonous mammals on Earth, and when it was sent to the Natural History Museum, they kind of almost threw it away because they thought it was a hoax, because nothing could exist in nature that peculiar. That or the Peregrine Falcon. Such a beautiful bird. We've got them living quite a few in Bath. The fastest living animal on Earth can get to over 200 miles an hour. It's only tiny. That's 90 meters per second. Now, I could go on forever. I could talk about every single one of those. The Saiga, the one in the middle is it's a beautiful one. It's called the blue sea dragon. Though its name is much more beautiful than what it actually is. It's a sea slug. But I'm not going to. But I just wanted to kind of give you some examples to show that just how beautiful and intricate and how well designed our natural world is. And it's not just the sheer profusion of nature across the world. It's the fact that it is so fundamentally interwoven that we simply don't understand how it all works. There's a really famous example in Kenya of a particular species of acacia tree, a whistling acacia tree, and elephants. Now, what happened is conservationists there were worried that this acacia tree was being damaged by the large browsers, the elephants, the giraffes. So they fenced it off to protect the tree, or group of trees. Now, over time, they actually discovered that the trees within the electric fences were dying twice as quickly as those outside the fences that were being browsed by the elephants and the giraffe. Now, what was actually going on is when the large browsers would come in, they would damage the trees. The trees would release a sweet sap, which was food to a particular species of ant. That ant swarmed the large browsers, the elephants and the giraffes, and made them flee. So the ants were almost bodyguards. They got fed, but they protected the trees. Now, when the tree wasn't being damaged, it didn't produce the sap, so the ants went elsewhere. Another species of ant moved in, and they had a symbiotic relationship with a wood-boring beetle. So both the second species of ant and the wood-boring beetle thrived, and the trees that they were trying to protect all died. Now, you can't blame the conservationists for thinking that it was the big animals that was doing the damage. But the point here is that nature is so intricately interwoven, it's easy to see God's fingerprints all over it. And the trouble is they were looking at it from a human perspective, not God's perspective. That's a point I want to come back to later. Now, what is more astonishing still is God didn't just kind of take some kind of building blocks and put everything together, some green feathers and add to make a pretty bird, or some more neck pieces to make a giraffe. He had to design the entire fundamentals of our natural world. Now, I want to go tiny now with you. Now, stay with me with this. So we all know that everything on Earth, every single thing is made up of atoms. Okay, the tiny, tiny building blocks of life. I want to look inside one. So inside an atom, scientists believe that it is 99.99% nothing. There are things in there. There are some subatomic particles called quarks and electrons and neutrons. But the rest of it is just blank space. But the scale is phenomenal. Let's imagine that this church is one single atom. And try and hold into your head that a single human cell has about 1 trillion atoms across. So we're just focusing on one of those. And if this church was an atom, the nucleus inside, the bulk of that atom, would be the size of that corn kernel. The rest of it, absolutely nothing. Now, I'm not just doing this just to hurt your brains. I'm going to do that in a little bit. But when we dive down to this indescribably small, we get an insight into the God that created it. He is a God of detail. He uses such incredible mechanics that we simply cannot comprehend them. Now, in Hebrews 11, it says that by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what is visible. And it is only by faith that we can fully comprehend what God has done. His scale is beyond comprehension. And I missed this one. To give you an idea, that's kind of what it looks like. There is a grey haze around and the nucleus right in the middle. Okay, now, I said I don't want to hurt your brain, but I want to now zoom out. I want to look past everything that kind of those microscopic atoms kind of make, like the animals and the plants, to bigger, to the mountains, the rivers, the continents, the planets, the sun. And now I want to go to our solar system. Now, there is some beautiful symmetry out here in our solar system. This is to scale, by the way. You can't see us at all, I'm sorry. There are 8 planets within our solar system. All of those planets would fit beautifully between us and our moon. And thinking of our moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but it is almost exactly 400 times further away, the sun, which means that when the moon travels in front of it, it blocks it out entirely. There is beautiful symmetry and beautiful design within our solar system. Now, Our star, that's our closest star, the sun, is enormous. It's huge. It would fit 1.3 million Earths inside of it. But of course, it's not the only one. So if we zoom out to our galaxy now, this is the Milky Way. Our sun, our big ball of burning gas that could hold 1.3 million of us, is a tiny, tiny little white dot that's almost imperceptible. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's kind of on the bottom. There's a little dot that says you are here. That's where we sit, just in our galaxy. Now, I'm going to take one more step outwards. Please stay with me with this one. This is a beautiful image from the Hubble telescope, taken quite a long time ago now. But each one of those tiny specks of light that you see, bar two, incidentally, each one that you see is not a star, but a galaxy. Each one is the size, if not bigger, than our Milky Way. Now, what's more astonishing still, if we can get more astonishing, is I want you to imagine this 50p, and I want you to imagine the Queen's nose upon the 50p. The size of space that this photograph was taken is the size of the nose of the Queen on this 50p piece when held at arm's length. Just imagine what else is out there. But look at that and marvel at God's awesome creation. Now, I'm going to stop zooming out now. I don't want to talk kind of astrophysics and subatomical physics because, frankly, I don't understand it. But there is a wonderful quote from Albert Einstein that says, and he said it on reflecting about a compass that was moving completely independently of any human interference or interaction. And he said, something deeply hidden had to be behind things. And this, I want to suggest, points squarely to our Creator God. So abundantly obvious when we view his works, but also so deeply hidden within the depths of detail that we can only marvel. Now, the danger of doing a talk like this, and I fully appreciate it, is that we can feel a little bit insignificant and a little bit, well, worthless. We're a tiny dot upon a tiny dot upon a tiny smudge within a sea of universe, a sea of galaxies within the universe. How can I possibly have any significance in that? But actually, what I want to suggest is, just like the conservationists and the acacia trees, it is simply a matter of perspective. Our galaxy, our solar system, our planet within it can only exist if God had created this universe. Our planet is so beautifully aligned. We have enough light to survive, but not enough to burn us. We have an atmosphere that protects us from harmful radiation. We have just the right combination of chemicals and elements to sustain such a profusion of life. It is perfect. And as far as we know, it is unique. A unique and perfect combination, an environment on which God can breathe life into the one part of his creation that Tom 2 weeks ago reminded us was formed in his own image. David writes in Psalms that you knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you because I have been fearfully and wonderfully made, me as an individual. Now, in the same way that a baker can't put the cherry on the top of the cake without first pulling together all of the right ingredients, getting exactly the right amount of ingredients together, and then forming the right environment for which those ingredients can come together to build the basis on which it can then build its showstopper for any Bake Off fans. God had to build his universe. He had to build our galaxy, our solar system, so he could build the planet on which to build his showstopper, on which he could build you. Now, this morning I can look out over God's creation now, and I can echo those verses that we heard right at the start. It is very good. You are very good. And that's how God views you now too. In an unfathomably large universe, it was created for you to exist and for you to be a part of his story. Though it's really easy to feel insignificant at times, you should know that God purposely and intentionally made you. Stitched you together with with an uncountable number of those biological building blocks. And you are loved. Enough for him to send his only son. In Psalm 37, we read, he delights in every detail of our lives. Every detail. And we know now he is a God of the detail. It's only then that when we fully understand that we are intended, that we are loved, that we can begin to feel our real value. And only then can we fulfill our true potential here on earth, to be the individual that God intended us to be. Now, I just want to finish. Someone cleverer than me here at church gave me a vision once of a bird in a cage, singing beautifully, but singing sat in a cage. And they went on to say that cage is not locked. It is choosing to stay inside because that's where it feels safe. But if only it had gone out of the cage, it could have soared. Don't be a caged bird. Know God's love, fly free within it, and know that God sees you as very good. Amen.